tired? Huh?
It feels that way today.
You tired?
Just
A little bit. Wednesday?
Do you need a hype man?
Wednesday, hump day? Do I need a hype man? No, I don't need a hype man. Stand up.
he is the hype man.
I am the hype man. Stand up.
Fair enough.
Never stand up.
Stand up. Stand up. Stand up. You're nice.
Yeah. Put those things down. I'm gonna break shit.
Oh,
Put that down. You're gonna break stuff.
sorry.
All right. So everybody, put your hands like this.
Okay.
All right. We're gonna do the golf warm up. So don't do this. Right here. All right. Oh, that's good, right?
Yes, sir.
This is mostly good, man. Hold on. Check it out a little more. Okay, do this. This is not the golf warm up. This is the testicle bounce.
That's the testicle bounce.
All right. Okay. Go a little more weight, Go a little bit.
Yeah,
a little bit.
We're gonna curve or something. I don't know.
Little
That's it.
bit.
Just want to get blood going a little bit.
All right.
So we haven't done this in a little bit of a while, but it's kind of good to be back here. Definitely, we talked about some of the things we had our meeting this year. One of the things we talked about is perpetuating, building, continuing, and growing culture. And obviously that starts, here and spreads out from there. So it's something that we don't. And I'm guilty. Last week was a little bit of a short week, and I used it for an excuse. The week after that, the week before that, I'll probably have another one. So we got to get, you got to hold me accountable too for that. The other thing too is that, and this is I have a topic here off of what Jody talked about yesterday. And if you have a topic or you think of something, here's a great idea, you should do this. Either A, do it yourself, or B, give it to me. Or say, give it to me, or B, do it yourself. Or however you want to look at that. Sometimes it's hard to come up with ideas, things that are fresh and new. I try not to make this sales training because there's a lot of that goes on. I kind of want to step out of that world and, it's kind of, to me, it's kind of a little of the purpose and the point of being here. I think, just take a minute in the middle of the week and think about other things and be deep and, or not necessarily be deep, just be outside of the realm of scrubbing lists of setting appointments and doing sales and looking at computers and emails and all that type of stuff, right? All right, cool. So, I'm going to tell you a little story. And it's actually, it's a true story. And we're going to talk today about the power of the word no. And when you think about it, it has a negative context we don't ever want to hear, especially in the environment that we're in, but even in life. I heard a very interesting quote yesterday off of the TV show House. Most people formulate their questions to get the answer that they want, not the answer. Which is, when you think about it, what we learn, it's what we do better. In sales in general, we do that better than most people. We come up with the answer that we want and figure out how to get them down the process. Does anybody know how many yeses it takes before you have a deal? You might know.
43.
No? It's 43. In the industry that I have the most experience in the car business is 43. But no one really knows how many no's there are. And so I'm going to tell you two stories. One is a very interesting, happened to me the first time I was in the car business. And I'd been in there about 3 months. I was already a salesperson another month at the time. I was doing pretty good. And the man I still hold dear to my heart. He was a desk guy. He was a general sales manager. I walked up to him and I was sure that I had a deal. And the trick is that a lot of times, if you have a manager involved in a selling situation, you go up to the manager, you have a certain amount of information, and what they want you to do, what you learn to do, is they're going to ask you all these questions. You want all those questions answered. What about this? And what about this? And do you know this? And do you know this? And what does the customer want here? What do they want here? What do they want there? Jody and I were working with a client not too long ago for us. He asked me, what about this, and what about this, and what about that? It became painfully apparent to me that I did not know the process to get him from point A to point B, according to and in conjunction with what Jody knows works and what he wants. I didn't have the answers. And some of the reasons I didn't have the answers was lack of knowledge. Other times, though, you find yourself in that situation because you don't want to hear the word no. In this particular situation, I had a car deal. I went to the guy. He asked me all these questions, and I had everything answered. And the answer to every question was yes. And he sat back in his chair, and he smiled. And I have pride, and especially after you're a salesperson of the month in the car business, you have a little bit of ego, but more pride than anything else. And he smiled at me, and he gets on the intercom, and he goes, Mike, can you come to the desk? Well, Mike's the top sales guy. I've been there for a year and a half, long before I ever got there. I'm like, what are you doing? He's like, just hold on. I was like, are you giving half of my deal away? Well, I got a deal here. He goes, Frankie, I know you think you do. Let me explain to you why you don't. Mike comes up and Mike says, He goes, Mike, we don't have any objections here. Oh, yeah. Mike goes, oh, yeah, I hate those. Takes off, goes right to the car. I'm leaving me standing there. I'm like, what's going on? I'm getting ready to follow the guy, walk with him, and listen to what he says, which is the smartest thing you can do. You know, if you've got a senior salesperson that has success and you're a junior salesperson, use your brain. Follow that person, listen to what they do, and then rinse and repeat for the rest of your career. It's pretty much how it works. So I was getting ready to follow him, and the desk manager goes, oh, wait, come here. He goes, let me ask you all the questions. He's like, I got them all. Yes. He goes, does something seem wrong there? I'm like, no, everything seems perfect. He goes, the problem is, it does not matter what we do for this customer. It doesn't matter whether we give them the best deal of all time, exactly what they want, the worst deal they've ever seen. It does not matter. There's only one thing they're going to do. They're going to say, okay, great, thanks for the information. They're going to head right out the door. He goes, you don't have any no's. Without an objection, you don't have a sale. Because as of yet, they haven't needed you. It's been great, thanks for the test drive, waiting for the car too. You know, Honda made the car, the dealership put it on the lot, somebody else did the advertising, and they drove it. Well, you didn't have any part in that. And it was an interesting lesson. It happened to me again years later, and I went to the desk and I said no to anything. And sure enough, we send somebody else back there, poke them a little bit, find the pain, get a no out of them, which is funny because we hate that word. That's not where I want it to be. I don't want to be at the end of the word no. You think about no's. No's they're a stance. If you have a loved one and you ask your loved one, do you love me? And they looked at you and went, yeah. Do you know? Do you feel like they love you right then? If they answered the same way, no. It might hurt, but you know definitively where you are. It's a very definitive word. It's much better to get a quick no than it is a slow yes. It's a very definitive word. It might be the most definitive word. If someone asks you, hey, can you do X, Y, Z? And you went, no. They don't really go, okay, especially if they have other options. They're like, great, you can't do that. What about you? Can you do X, Y, Z? Yeah, I can do that. We've all had an experience where someone asks us a question and we'll go, and I'll give you a perfect example. Did you do a follow-up with so-and-so? Yeah, I did a follow-up with so-and-so. What does follow-up mean to you? What does that look like? What do you mean by follow-up? There's other things that happen there, right, with the yes? No is more definitive. Did you do follow-up with so-and-so? No. You might ask them why not, but you're done. It's a done statement. No is also an opportunity. And if you don't believe that, people have kids. Take a 3-year-old, and at dinner time they'll go, can I have a cookie? No. What's the next thing they say? But I won't eat it all. Or I won't ruin my dinner. No. And they just keep coming at you. No. And they keep coming at you. They keep coming at you if you say yes? No, they don't. They're like, thanks man, I got my cookie. Way to go. When I was into knocking doors for AT&T, the worst ever possible situation you could be in is when you would open, the guy would open the door and you'd say, I'm so-and-so from AT&T. A little while ago, they laid out fiber optics in your cable. Did anybody stop by and talk to you about that? If they said no, you were off to the races. It takes you to the next step. Okay, great. They don't have information. I need to give them information. That's what no means. When they would go, yeah, they came up. You'd be like, okay, great. Well, did they tell you about this and this and that? Yeah, they told me about that too. And you just keep going until they give you a no, because if they don't give you one, you have nowhere else to go. They just take all your thunder away. You have to have no's to close. They're the most definitive, and oddly enough, it's the first word that we learn as a child in most cases. We learn how to manipulate our lives simply by saying the word no. You have a very little kid, and if you hate them, terrible twos, and they'll be like, no. They start going, no. They understand fully the meaning of that word. We did as children because we know that it's a way to manipulate and get ourselves to the next step. Saying no, or getting a no, or being able to say no yourself also gives you the ability to explore and move things forward. Can we go to the moon? No. Why not? If the answer to that question would have been yes, can we sail around the ocean? Yeah, that's no. Yeah, we can do that. So, and when we think about the power of the word no, Coley was talking about yesterday, he was trying to focus. He said something interesting. What do you have to focus on to stay in focus? What do? We talked about goals. Where do you have to be if you want to get from here to here? You take as many steps as you can, and you have an understanding that all the decisions that you make are going to get you either farther away from or closer to where you want to be. A lot of those decisions aren't what to do. Brian has a list that he shared with us. I showed somebody yesterday. He had a list. I want to do these things in the next few months. One of them was skydiving. It's very cool to look back and see on that. There's another list, whether it's mentally in his head or on his refrigerator or with somebody else, of all the things he doesn't want to do. I don't want to do this. I do. I have one right now also. I just read read a text that I sent to a good friend of mine, a man that I adore. I like this man. I cannot hang out with him anymore. I can't influence him to do the right thing, and I can't not stop doing the bad thing. I sent him a tough email. I said, look, man, you're an alcoholic, you cheat on your wife, you do bad things, you lie all the time, I don't want to be like you when I grow up. Love you, can't hang out with you. So I got to say no, 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 no. The reason I want to say that is because here's what I really want to do. It opens up the door, but a lot of times we don't want to ever say that because we want to say things like, well, maybe, or, well, you know, if this, then that. When an affirmative no, just by saying the word, look, man, no, they're like, okay, well. Or it opens up the door to explore, well, gee, why not? Jody, why don't you want to hang out with me? Well, dude, here's the deal. Not that you're a bad person, but here's where I'm trying to go, here's where you're trying to go. You want to come along with me, or we want to meet in the middle someplace where it's okay, but I can't do this over here. Okay, and it's something that we hate the word because it has a negative connotation. I submit that it has. There can be very good connotations. And no also allows you to take a stance. And there have been times in history, and one of the most famous no's, and it's actually in Google this way, as the most famous no in American history. Do you know what it is? It's Rosie Parks. Get to the back of the bus. No. What? No. It's basically all she said. It didn't start a revolution. It made people aware of it. It made people more aware of it, and more people became aware of it, and more people became aware of it. It's sad that we had to go through that to get to that point. But the fact of the matter is that it's a no that opened up other things down the door. Yotaro Iwasaki. Yotaro Iwasaki, in the mid to late 1800s, around 1870, walked into a barber shop and cut off his top knot, which is sacred in the samurai world. He walked in as samurai, and he walked out of the barber shop as a business owner. In this earlier 60s, late 50s, his family had lost their samurai status in debt. And what that means is that he owed so much, they took away, he served a clan. And they served, samurai warriors served clan members as not just enforcers, but they did all kinds of things for them. And your clan, because there was these localized type of governments, but clans had, and you served as a samurai warrior, you served that clan. They lost their status because that they were in debt. Yotaro Iwasaki was in the middle of one of the most dynamic culture changes that the world has ever gone through. He was on the edge. In 1968, the Meiji Restoration happened, and it was the end of the samurai rule. This guy knew that the world was looking to change, and while his country and lots of his countrymen were fighting very much to stay the old closed-off Japan, which is what was going on at the time. Japan had no contact with the outside world, and it wasn't because no one wanted to do anything with Japan, because they didn't have any interest in it. They were like, we'll just hang out here and do our thing, y'all can do whatever. He studied under a guy named Toyo Yoshido, and Toyo Yoshido later on he was actually assassinated, and Toyo Yoshido was responsible for him opening up his mind to the concepts of maybe reaching out to the outside world, that the world was a bigger place. So Yotaro Iwasaki basically said no to the samurai world. He said no to the teachings of the time, which were independent, which they are. Japan was an independent nation and very little trading. He said no to the local magistrates when they told him that we're not going to give you back your status. Basically, he spent some time in jail for that. And he also said no to the way things in general were doing. And because of those things, it opened up other doors. This is the man that started Mitsubishi. And basically what they did in 10 years what the United States and the Western world had done and learned in 100. And they did it because they looked at the concept and said, we're not going to do it your way, we're going to do it our way. Because they literally brought the best and the brightest minds from the United States and England and these other industrial things. There was this massive industrial revolution going on. Manufacturers of steel, people with great minds of building and industry and engineering, and they took that to the next level. And they decided what Mitsubishi became famous because they diversified so quickly. Okay? That sounds like a lot of yeses. That sounds like a lot of people getting together and having a common idea and a common focus. But along the way, he had to say, I'm going to and the 300-year rule, and basically the way Japan was doing things for thousands of years. I'm going to take it, I'm going to do something completely different. Okay? So the point of the matter is that, especially when you're talking about being focused and you're trying to get a group of people or a small group of people or people like us that are trying to do something and build and grow and build and grow, sometimes it's, you have to be able to say, you don't have to say it, you don't have to do anything really, but you don't have to say it, but you have to be able to say it and say it definitively. I want to go up to someone and say, here's an idea, here's what I can do with some tools that I've been given, here's what my expectations are, I want more authority, I want more money, I want more whatever. If you're a leader or you're a boss or you're a decision maker, you have to be able to say no. If you're the person looking for that, you have to be able to hear no and understand that it opens up more doors. I think a lot of times what happens, especially in life as it pertains to our family, especially our immediate families, it's really hard to do that. We don't ever want to do that. We don't ever want to hurt anybody's feelings. We don't ever want to put ourselves in a position where they're looking down on us or they're feeling bad about us. But no's are, when you think about the fact that a very definitive, very decisive, very clear no is better than a maybe, because I know exactly, if you say no, then I know, if that makes any sense, because I know where you stand. The other thing I wanted to talk about, or the kind of a caveat to this, and I mentioned it before, is that in the process of getting, and I talk about this a lot, but in the process of doing that thing in life that we really want to do, or making progress on ourselves, on our own selves personally, and setting our own goals, we always talk about the things that we want to do and we want to accomplish in the next step, but a lot of times we don't consider what the obstacles are going to be in there and how to avoid those obstacles. Or another way to look at that is what to not do to get to where we want to go. For instance, let's say that you're trying to lose weight and what you really want to do is avoid fast food. And so we say, well, I'm going to pack a lunch, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, but that gets hectic, it gets carried, it's outside of your character, it's not something that's a habit for you. Where one thing that might be something that you can do is to not leave the office for work. I'm not saying that's a good idea, but if you don't leave the office, you certainly can't go get fast food, you know what I mean? Okay, now maybe that's not the best of examples, but it might be just an idea of a way that's signing up for what not to do, or signing up for a no, or taking a stance with yourself or with your own progress trying to make as a no, is it can be as powerful thing as having written down your goals of what it is that you want to do. Does that make sense? All right. So anyways, that's all I have for today. I just wanted to talk a little bit about that and the fact that it is a powerful. We always think about it in a negative light, and it doesn't have to be. It's okay to take a stance. And it's okay to take a stance with people that are close to us and the ones we love by giving them a definitive no rather than a wishy-washy yes, and understanding that, hey, it's okay. Cool?
Cool,
I
man.
don't know about shrimp.
Thank you, Frank.